Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the next episode of our webinar series, Terrabiz Talks. The program today that we have brought in is strategic workforce planning for today and the future of your business. I profoundly want to welcome every participant for joining us from Pakistan, UAE, and a few other countries. Uh, our learned speaker for this very important session today is Mr. Asghar Jameel. Asghar Saab is a thought leader in talent management and people operations field. During the last 15 years, he has lived in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East while working for companies like Ericsson, Nokia, and Avion Group. He held several senior management roles, such as Cluster HR Head, Global Business HR at Nokia, and Chief People Officer at Jazz, formerly known as Mobilink, in Pakistan. He is currently based in the Netherlands, where he serves as the Group Director HR Headquarters at Vion. So, folks, the topic today is a strategic workforce planning, and we could find no other person more competent uh, in the field who has not only does not only have vast knowledge about the subject, but has also done and implemented the concepts, particularly in the pandemic era. So we would want to hear what the future holds for all of us for tomorrow, and how can secure we can secure our businesses in a rapidly changing world. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Asghar Jameel to deliver his presentation. Thank you, Asghar, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Hamza Saab. I was just on mute because the plane was flying on top of our home, and I think it's a great sound to hear after many months, meaning the flights has started, but still we are in middle of pandemic. So yeah, I think the life continues, and I worked personally speaking, meaning as Hamza Saab was saying it, for the last 15 years of my career, most of the time outside Pakistan, and I think this is first time in the last 18 months that I still didn't get a chance to visit the country. So it's absolutely an honor for me to be with you all and share some of my experiences. But more importantly, to be honest, my interest when I was discussing with Hamza Saab was this to learn from the community, and I think a little bit to be in touch as well. On the things those are happening in the markets in terms of the development of the profession. So meaning I worked in Pakistan and extensively in Middle East. So both Dubai and rest of the Middle East is very close to my heart, and so is certainly Pakistan. So yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I think as you said, the topic is quite important, and I think if we look into the broader space, it actually has implications not only for companies or organizations, but for employees, for governments, and so on and so forth. And I think I'm going to touch base on all of those. Faisal or somebody in the team, if you can just indicate to me that you can hear me well, as well as if you can share the slides, then I can Okay, it looks like I just need to press a button on my side as well. So I assume you can see me, and yeah, I'm not sharing the screen on full screen. So I think I'm not the big fan of doing, let's say, the one-way conversation in any session. The people those know me and work with me, I'm a strong believer of dialogue, and as I said in the beginning as well, my interest is to learn from all of you as well, the colleagues and the friends who are joining today. But at the same time, I think the format of the the webinar is that I need to maybe give you my sense or my take on the subject in the first 30, 35, 40 minutes, and then if there are any any other questions, then we can take it from there. One thing is important. I know that almost 10% of all the registered members have sent their questions in advance, which was very good to see that, because I think my colleagues, those are in the leadership positions, one of the biggest problems that we all face, okay, whenever you are in a session in-house or outside, you always struggle that if people are asking enough questions, because that's a little bit of the dialogue, but also you can't capture everything in a monologue, so you need those questions. So I think the people those have sent these questions, thank you so much to them. I can just ensure you that after seeing those questions which were shared with me over the towards the end of the day Friday, I have quite changed the slide deck, because when I realized that the audience as well as the types of questions that you have, I have adopted to that. So I tried my best, I think, answering some of those questions that you have raised it, and let's see, meaning if it covers the points that you mentioned. I assume so, but if still not, please feel free to send a question, and we can see if we still have time now. We will try to answer it, or we can do it offline as well. One thing which I noted, meaning just before I start, and then that was in a way it's I think an indication to the subject as well, but also I'm very pleasantly surprised, or very happy, rather, not surprised, but very happy to see that we have almost more than 20% of our attendees, or the people those registered for the session, they are the people from finance. Most of them are at the CFO level, which is a very, very important indication about where the subject is currently being tackled in maybe in those companies. And I'm a strong believer of this partnership as well, and I'll come to make that point later. Coming to the subject, if you look into that one, meaning there are three things that in the last 12-18 months, and there are many other things happening, and I'm sure you all have read enough on those subjects. So I'm not going to go through that, but three things are important. Let's say those are happening, or those and the start of the pandemic started happening, and they are impacting all the businesses. Number one was this deglobalization, meaning we all heard about globalization, but I think the pandemic have told us that we really need to look into the supply chains. We really need to look into a lot of other things, but deglobalization is a one big trend. And then if you go into the digitization, the second element, second common theme or second common trend, everything is digitized. And then I think work from home, or the companies those were only thinking and building policies and waiting to pilot with small populations, they were suddenly pushed to pilot with 60, 70, 80% of the workforce, even in the essential industries. I mean, so I think it's quite an acceleration on that side. And then the last one is the corporate consolidation. And I think meaning coming from my own background in HR and in transformations and M&A, I know that these things have quite a huge impact on the businesses as well. With this thing said, strategic workforce planning, meaning, was always an important subject, not only for organizations but even for governments. Meaning ILO, let's say, they have issued the guidance for the last several years, and companies are already started working, but they're also encouraging governments that they need to partner with employers and unions and other stakeholders to ensure that they have reskilled their workforce, because the jobs of the future will be different than the jobs of today, and the governments have the responsibility as well to play a part. So I think we see that one, and we'll capture a little bit more in the detail. So it means it's not only an organization perspective on the subject, but also the government and other stakeholders perspective as well. Last thing before I go into any of the content areas, when I looked into the questions those were shared with me from the participants, I realized that one of the key questions is how to do this. And in that spirit, then I have included the examples now that, meaning in how to do that, there are two angles, by the way. There is one that, what is the outside in view? What is available for you in the external market, which can help you run your strategic workforce planning programs better? So that is an external view. Internally, there's quite a lot of work that you need to do, and I'm sure you know that the change in culture, the way the management sees this topic, the way the HR, let's say, function sees it and how competent they are to run it, or any other function, whoever is running this particular aspect. So meaning I'm not discussing what changes or what key requirements you need to fulfill to initiate such a thing internally, because internal buy-in is very, very important. But I leave it for now. That one, my job is to, in this next 35-40 minutes, to help share or try to share at least some of the ideas, what is happening externally, and what you can leverage externally in this whole plan of doing the strategic workforce planning. So I think that will be my focus, and in that spirit, I would be using some of the or sharing my own experience, as well as some of the available technology or technology platforms that you can use that. And those, I'm not at all. And I think just to mention it, I'm sure many of the senior colleagues, they all know that with experience, but as we have some of the fresh HR people as well, it's very important that we should realize that technology is a mean to an end. It is not an end. So don't get tired yourself by bringing a technology and then claiming that you have changed the organization. No, it's not going to be. Technology is just a mean. So please keep in mind. And I think the examples that I'm going to share are also in that spirit, that okay, when I say this is the platform to use, it means it is a mean available to you. Now go and look what type of a company you are, what type of a problem you have, what you are trying to solve, and try to pick that partner, that technology solution that is available, whichever suits you best in your needs, and then try to go and use that one. So I think in that spirit, I'm going to share some of those examples, because this is what I believe in this setting is expected. And I think maybe it just reminded me one example while I was focusing on this business issue. And I think it's the same thing, meaning 2016 I came to Pakistan to work as a chief people officer for Mobilink at that point in time. And I know that in January, meaning in very first few weeks, one of our colleague, Talha, he is currently Muhammad Talha, he is currently working in HAPCO in Karachi. So he was with us in Mobilink, and he brought an idea, and he said we should be launching in Mobilink, because we are in middle of change, Facebook at Work. Now it is called Workplace by Facebook. And I think, and I said, yes, let's do that. And we discussed with our CEO, and we started doing it. And I think the key thing for us was the change that we were going through. And after that, when we implemented, and there were many other companies, I think we were one of the few ones globally as well in the telecom sector. And I think in Pakistan, if not the first, I think very, very first one, if I recall correctly. But after that, many people reached me, many CHROs, C-level executives, those were in charge of this sort of an initiative in their company. And their question was how to do it. And I was telling them, yes, one is the system part, but more importantly is, okay, is your organization ready to go through that such a thing? And for us, it was ready, because we wanted to go and implement that one. And I think we had enough in our change agenda happening that we could leverage it. And I think it really worked well. But I'm not sure, meaning, let's say any company, maybe it's in a different state of business model or a performance situation. And I think the tools are, as I said, it's just a mean, it's not an end. So don't use it like that. And I think that's very, very important to realize that one. So let's get into the discussion. What I would like to capture as I said, in the next 30 minutes, these roughly speaking 5 points. These are the same, I think, 5 discussion points that we had in our general invitation as well. So what is the future of workforce, and then how to initiate the strategic workforce planning. And then I thought to focus on 2 gap closure strategies, and reskilling and upskilling. It is mostly internally more for us. I think the markets that we are in is upskilling work, but still reskilling is very important. And I thought to share a couple of outside examples as well. And then the talent acquisition. And I'm not going to go through the standard talent acquisition agenda here, but more, my idea is, okay, to share with you that what is available for us to now fulfill or to close any gaps around talent requirements. So what type of a talent is available on demand, and then how to approach it, and then where we need to go for it. and how you can leverage it. And this is becoming more and more important. Let's say in mature markets, in Europe, I can tell you, and in US as well, they believe that by the next 5 years, you will have more than 50% of the workforce will be your contingent workforce. So this is quite a big number, and I think, and then you need to know that how to approach them, and so on and so forth. So I think these are the same things that I believe companies and organizations in Middle East as well as in Pakistan can take advantage of. So before I go into again the subject, and it's very important that we realize the context. And I thought purposefully to bring a couple of examples. We are in a very, I think, very, very sweet spot as HR people since the start of pandemic, and I think, meaning it's important for all of us to realize that a few years back we were facing the threat all over the place. Meaning, if you go into the 2014-15, that was the time that everybody was writing that it's time to split HR. HR is not delivering what they're supposed to do. That, and I'm sure this is the same level of conversation many companies internally also has it in the leadership team meetings. And it's a true, somewhat true phenomena as well. Meaning, we can all we as HR people can always say that why people don't see the value, but I think we are the promoter of ourselves. Meaning, we need to bring that value forward and do it. But looking at the criticism of other people, it's very important way, in my view, to always improve your performance. So this is how I take it. Meaning, when I read first time this article in 2015 by Ram Charan, and I think if any one of you are interested to see the counter narrative from Dave Ulrich, it's also published in Harvard Business Review in 2014 and end of 2014. And I think both of the articles, I believe, are publicly, meaning you can freely access on the Harvard Business Review website. But it's worth reading it. And I think, but I wanted again to highlight a couple of points, and that's the reason I kept the first para of the article there, that CEOs feel that, and this is what Ram is saying, and Ram is somebody who works with CEOs, and it's very important in HR, by the way. Again, just a side tip from my experience in life, that do your HR, meaning improve your HR skill set, do your SHRM or any other certifications that you want to do, go ahead and do that. It's important. But always read the people, those are advisors to CEO. Always read the articles, what are the challenges of CEOs, what are the challenges of CFOs and other people, because then only you can help solve the problem. Many people ask me, many young and as well as my colleague, you ask me this question, that how we know how we can, when we sit on a table, how we can add value. You can add value when you know what is the CEO problem, not what is the HR problem, and what is the organization problem. So I think it's very important, just a side note, that read those people if you are reading it. And I believe every one of us has enough time if we just a little bit reduce of our social media time and a little bit read on these topics to read the people those are advising to CEOs, and so on and so forth. So I think the highlight is here, what the CEO expects from us, to be a sounding board and a trusted partner as he sees in a CFO. So I think this is something that somebody who is speaking to CEOs is telling us, and I think this is where we need to look as HR. But now from 2014, fast forward to 2020 and 21, and I think there are several examples everywhere. You pick up any magazine and you would find it, that HR is in the central role now. How HR can help build the organizations of the future. It's a McKinsey article, and meaning you can just search it. The purpose is the message that yes, you are in a sweet spot, but we can deliver it if we really focus on, again, what are the needs of the company. We should not lose this crisis to really establish the role and also help organizations win. Meaning ultimately we need to help organizations succeed, and I think this is what our job is. And this is not only in articles, but if you just see that in HR job postings, meaning market is recovering generally as well, slowly but gradually. But HR is, as you can see that, 52.5% higher job postings as compared to early 2022 state, 2020 state. Meaning in February 2020, where we started this whole process of the situation of the pandemic, from there till already in June 2021, we are recovering, and not only recovering, but actually the growth of HR jobs is much higher than the rest of the jobs. And it shows the importance of the function. It shows that, okay, what is in hand in all the organizations, and type of expertise that they need in terms of how to create a balance between remote and office work, and also how to refill the positions with many people those are leaving the companies, because I think the research tells us that it's a mega trend in mature markets on the resignations. People are ready. If companies will push them to come back, they are going to resign and leave, because everybody see that, okay, they can find enough in the market uh, outside the organization as well. So HR jobs are also an indication that yes, the role is becoming important. I think the onus is on us how we deliver it there. And then the last thing to set the scene, and then I go into the subject. As I mentioned, meaning, and I think in any organization, let's say, and also on this particular topic of strategic workforce planning, for HR people, the key counterpart is the CFO. And not only for strategic workforce planning, but all topics that you have. And if you know how to work with your CFO organization, and then particularly, okay, if you have a CFO, you know how to work with them, then you are covered when you're sitting with your CEO. Why? Because you know your subject well, and then you are you equally know that, okay, how to translate those ideas into numbers, and the value creation for the organization, and CFO organization can help you do that. So I think it's called golden triangle, meaning the CEOs need these two people, these two roles, to really help them succeed in the modern times. And I think quite extensively again is written on this subject, and I would highly encourage my let's say the young HR professionals to really, from the beginning of their career, focus on these things. And I'm sure the people those are already very senior, they know the subject, but it's very important that if you know how to work with a CFO organization, this make it easier for you when you are sitting in a leadership room and then discussing about a project. Uh, Again, I think just a side note, if you want to read more about, let's say, what is the CEO agenda, another good person to follow is Sandy Ogg. Sandy was the group CHRO of Unilever, and then I think he was the partner in one of the leading private equity firms. I'm not going to go into Sandy, but let's say highly recommended person to follow. Again, if you want to see what are the CEO's priorities, and what is taking a lot of their time. And yeah, if you want to read more about the golden triangle concept, again, it's by Ram Charan, and the book called Talent Wins. And you can I think it's available. I'm sure many of you have read it already, but it's quite extensively explained there as well. And it's good maybe for our CFO organization as well, that, okay, why the CHRO role is important. So if you have an interest to a little bit get that idea, I would highly encourage you also to look at Talent Wins. I think companies need these two roles, work well, and be the areas of the CEO. Okay, coming to the our core topic, like what is the workforce. So I think before we go into the strategic workforce planning, we need to realize that, okay, what is the future of the workforce, and what exactly is happening around that one. And I think that's very important. By the way, I looked at the last session that Terrabiz did, and I listened to the full session, and I think I would highly recommend, if any of you have not read yet the research and things like that on what is happening to the future of work and the future of workforce, then from there in general as well, and the future of work, I would recommend, please check that session on the Terrabiz website. I think Sajjad Parmar did a great job on delivering that one. So I would highly recommend that, because that background, that what is happening to the work, that will help you understand what is exactly happening to the workforce in future, and then it will help us to plan that strategically, the workforce planning part. So I think it's always very important that you start with a bigger picture, and then you come to the operationalizing it. Future of workforce, one thing is very important, that it has three key players in it: employees, employers, and governments. And whenever you look into the workforce topic, you need to look into this entirety, and that's very important. And we are seeing good progress, meaning from employees as well, that they're quite a lot investing on their development post pandemic or during pandemic as well, or in pandemic. Employers are stepping up, quite a lot to be done, but I'm going to capture a few examples. Governments are also slowly getting there and realizing their contribution into that one. In developing countries, less so, but there are some good examples. But in developed countries, I think everybody knows that's a very, very important area. And as I was mentioning, ILO has already started issuing some, for quite some time, the guidelines to the governments to really focus on these areas. Before we jump into this one, meaning this is just a snapshot from one of the ILO reports, and this captures that, okay, what will be the global employment losses in a no pandemic situation from 2018 to 21, and the pandemic was not considered at that point in time. These were the job losses due to the technological advancements and disruptions in general. So they were expecting a certain trend, and roughly speaking, I think I was looking into World Economic Forum report as well. They captured it around 75 million job losses by 2022, and then at the same time there was like 133 million jobs created as well, so expected to be created. So these are expected losses, expected to be created, and that were projected. But then pandemic hit us, and then we have already seen the 144 million employment losses, and we are going to go a little bit into that one. What I'm trying to highlight is it's a big problem, meaning we really need to understand, and I think it's that, okay, how to address this issue here onward, and how to plan strategically the workforce planning element of that one. Coming to the 114 million number, if you look into that one, already as per the data that is collected by ILO, that roughly 33 million are in complete unemployment. They shifted towards in that one, but there are still 81 million which are in inactivity. There's a cooling off period in that way. but it's a mega impact of 114 million, and I think as if you just add this number and then see other 75 million general disruptions, and we know that the disruption is also accelerated. The technological advancements are also accelerated. Now we need to see that, okay, how fast is the movement on the creation of new jobs, and then I think that's a key element. And I'm just gonna continue, to the next, but these slides will stay with you, and it will be shared with you. If any one of you have more interest to look into these numbers, you can always check on the ILO website as well, and the reports. And by the way, in all the information that I'm mentioning, it's publicly available, except few slides. Those are very on specific. And then this publicly available information, links are also given. So I think the slides that we will share with you, you will find the links of all the reports there as well. So in case you would have an interest to double click or read more on a subject, you can do that. So if that's the level of a problem, meaning you see that, okay, this level of job losses are happening. The next thing is, okay, and then we have seen that individuals are doing in their capacity to reskill themselves, meaning LinkedIn learning report shows that end of 2020 that there's already 50% more interest in learning new skills from the people as compared to before pandemic. So it's quite extensive interest from employees, and I think in an individual capacity they are trying to upskill or reskill themselves. But now the second element is the organizational element, and I think I just thought to quote a couple of examples, not many, but meaning generally speaking, organizations are also lagging in this area, but few have really taken it forward. And then if you check, and I'm sure you know that initiative from Microsoft and LinkedIn. By the way, I'm sure everybody knows that LinkedIn is now owned by Microsoft. So, Microsoft and LinkedIn launched a skills initiative to where they were planning to provide the training free of cost to 25 million people. Ultimately, I think they have done 5 million extra. So after doing that, now they want to go to the next level, and I think it's a great example that, okay, what level of a contribution a company can do that. And I think it's also indicate that, okay, it is challenging to upskill and reskill people, but it is not that big of a challenge that we sometime in HR think that, okay, it's going to take us too long. And I'm going to capture some of those details slightly later, but we just need to keep that thing in mind, that, okay, as a companies, meaning I'm sure Microsoft is doing internally marvelous job, but they have stepped up their game, and they have came out in the market and tried to help general public as well. And they have, I'm sure, they have a business interest in it, and we come to it in a moment as well. But the other key element that I want to highlight is that they say that please join, meaning the job seekers, nonprofits, and governments. So that equation is important. That is, no company, no employee can do it alone, but governments and everybody need to join in this upskilling, reskilling initiative of strategic workforce planning. Coming to this point, and why, let's say, Microsoft, and this is again, by the way, given on their own website, this snapshot or this slide that I took it from this skills initiative website of Microsoft, and where they say that okay, by 2025 there are 190 million new jobs, and then, meaning out of 190 millions, let's say, 149 million new jobs out of 190 million jobs in the digital capacity. And then if you look into, let's say, the split of those 149 million, 98 million software developers are needed. And then just imagine, meaning which company is gonna be, it's a business problem for them as well. If there are not enough software developer in the world, who will be using Microsoft products, and so on and so forth. So I think they have their business interest, but also at the same time, they're not keeping it to the internal, but yes, they're coming out and helping public to reskill and accelerate that digitization journey as well. So it's always important to look outside, try to find out what is your business problem, and I would try to now mention that point, which will be the key thing for your strategic workforce planning project, that what is happening in the market. What is the bigger picture? What are the issues that we as a company are facing? What are the issues that we as an industry are facing? How things will be in the next 3 to 5 years? Talk to your strategy function. Try to figure it out. What are the things happening internally? I'm trying to give some of the sense that what is happening externally in the market in terms of impact on the workforce. What are some of the companies picking up the initiatives? If you just see the initiative of LinkedIn and Microsoft in isolation, you would say, the company did a great job. But then at the same time, when you a little bit dig deeper, you figure it out that yes, the good company, they don't have a choice anymore, because if they don't upskill people, and if they leave it only to the governments and everybody else, okay, it is a business problem for them. And I'm sure they can't do everything alone, so they will be partnering with many organizations. But yes, it's always important to start with outside view. And then another example, I think very briefly, meaning COVID-induced problem, that many companies were laying off people in US when the COVID started. At the same time, companies like Amazon, Target, and others, they were extensively trying to hire people. And I think this is by the initiative by Eightfold AI, and primarily from the McKinsey side, because they were the people, those were getting called from, I think, on one side from the companies, those were trying to restructure. On the other hand, the companies those were trying to hire. So they thought to bring together these two demands, the supply and the demand issue of the talent, and they collaborated with this Eightfold AI, an AI company, and put together a website within the matter of 3 weeks, and asked them, okay, to ask the employers that who are hiring to put their positions there, ask the employers those who were laying off people to let the people know to come and create their profiles there, and with the help of AI, they matched and they're taking forward. Meaning this is a free of cost initiative in that way. But if you just see that this is I just took it, I think, over the weekend, this picture. 2 million jobs are open at this stage as well. I know that, okay, they have mentioned it briefly in one of the articles, that within 4 weeks of launching it, there were 500,000 jobs open. So they were able to support a lot. So there are, let's say, what I'm trying to say, that companies are stepping up their game, and these are some of the examples that we see that, which is quite unusual. But this is how we need to think as a HR people if we want to find solutions. And partnerships is very, very key element as well. And I think, meaning second highlight from my side, from other than outside in, look into the partners that you can work. Don't try to solve every problem yourself, or ask for help, and I think find out the partners, and those will help you do that. Meaning learn from each other. I'm sure you know that, okay, Uber has also similar sort of an initiative for I think Work Hub for their drivers, where they can find meaning as again, they were impacted in pandemic, so if they want to find jobs in other areas, so Uber was bringing that under the Work Hub in their app, this possibility so people can find the job. This is what HR also need to do. That strategic workforce planning also means what type of skills you need in the future, but there will be some you may not need it, but then help those people with those skill sets to land somewhere else, and take that beyond only to your own P&L. Take a step, because you are a company operating in a country and you have impact on that society. So take that role. uh, yeah, and the last thing is, okay, the government's role, and the governments are playing an important role all over the world. As I said, World Economic Forum is a great place, a resource that I would highly recommend for our HR colleagues to subscribe to and read, because they have future of job reports, they have future of skills reports, meaning we always see those small 10 skills of the future circulating in WhatsApp and social media groups, but there is much extensive research available beyond that. So a little bit double click it, find an evening, and take the report. Meaning, if you just take the 2020 jobs report, uh, impressive reading. Meaning, it can really help you realize what is happening in the world. Again, coming back to that point, that why it is important to know outside, and these are the sources to know what is happening outside. So reading some of these sources will help you do that. Meaning, I purposefully put Pakistan and UAE as a snapshot, because let's say World Economic Forum is working with I think roughly 10 countries. Those have these country accelerators. This is an idea where they are working to upskill their workforce in the country. As in Pakistan, we have this Punjab Skills Development Fund, and I'm sure in UAE also they have that. Under the Ministry of Higher Education, Advanced Skills. And I was listening, I think, to the Minister of UAE, Education Minister, and he mentioned that, okay, they already have some of the private companies, those are partnering with the ministry, where they have agreed that whenever they have a reorganization situation, or in general as well, they are their partner in upskilling and reskilling, like Futam Group and others. So the government has a very important role, but I was trying to highlight. So employees, employers, and governments. These are the three elements that you need to keep in mind if you want to work on this area. Finally, to the strategic workforce planning. But this is how I would, and this is an important element, and I purposefully designed it this way as well. The conversation. We in HR normally face this issue whenever there is a question asked in a CEO meeting or anywhere else. We try to roll up our sleeves and try to start rolling out things. Don't do that. Do your time to research. Take your time to think. Take your time that what is the reason behind this question. Try to understand outside dynamic. As I mentioned, try to understand what is happening in the market that you are in. In Pakistan, what is happening? What is the political situation, economic situation in the country? Then look into your industry. Then look into your company. And only then start planning your HR initiatives. When you try to do only HR initiatives in your own bubble, when you will present those to the management, nobody will believe in those. So I think that is the reason it was very important to look into that outside view before we jump into this workforce planning. And I think a couple of snapshots, I know, because all of you who have signed up, the reason it's clear that, okay, you have an interest in the subject. But yes, it's one of the very, very important areas in terms of investments in HR, and then the workforce planning and strategy and change management. And many companies, as you can see that, okay, they are interested to invest more in this area. It is just an indication that if you are doing something like this, you're part of those organizations. Those are really investing well and prioritizing. But generally speaking, if you would see that 76% of the organizations are quite clear that they would do that. There are 19%, those who are maybe are thinking to invest less. I don't know, whatever is their priority areas. So I can't comment who are this in 19%, but at least 76% big majority of the companies are really looking forward to invest more in this area. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think, meaning just one thing to highlight, okay, in strategic workforce planning, it's someone can say that, okay, meaning it's in a way it is the same concept. It is there for years, and in a way it is also evolving as everything else is evolving around us. So it is not a new thing that we are bringing it. It is just few key elements into that one. And I think before we go into further, we all know that let's say the key elements in strategic workforce planning are, let's say, one of the most important is the critical roles, and those critical roles will remain very, very important in the future as well. Meaning, many companies work on identifying the critical roles and do that, and I'm a strong believer of that one. So yes, please keep doing it if you're doing it. But then there are a couple of other elements that you need to do more so, and those are now let's say the skills pool. meaning you need a broader skills set in your organization or a pool of skills in your organization, and you need to work on that. In past, when it was only performance driven few years back, you could focus on your critical resources and take care of, and that can drive the rest of the performance. But now, while the industries are changing, while the technologies are changing around us, while the new business models are coming forward, it means we need broader organizations reskilling as well, or upskilling as well. So that skill pool is becoming very, very important, and that is going beyond critical roles. And then the last element is the HR systems, or workforce planning systems, meaning CHROs, or the HR organizations or HR departments. They have now access to wide range of HR systems. Those can help them do this job better. So these are a couple of things have changed, just wanted to mention. And in that spirit, again, as I mentioned, that okay, critical roles is a key and important element into the strategic workforce planning, as well as it was in maybe manpower planning, or as it was even before that as well. And one of the let's say my favorite articles from 2005, again published in Harvard Business Review, from Professor Dick Beatty. He was our professor in one of the classes. So I highly, personally speaking, whenever I want to study this workforce planning topic or general, I always go with that beginning and try to read from him that what are the critical roles, because that's an important element, and to do that. And just wanted to mention that yes, it's an old concept. It is there. The bases are same, but yes, this broader reskilling is a new topic. And I think you see heavy commitments. Let's say Amazon committed roughly $700 million to reskill 100,000 people. PwC, I'm sure many of you know that, big audit and consulting firm, they have, I think I was reading somewhere that okay, they committed roughly $3 billion for the next 5 years to reskill their organization. So meaning things are changing, and if you see that, let's say why they are doing it, because part of digitization and automation, accounting and finance professions are highly impacted as well. So then if you see PwC impacting $3 billion, yeah, there is a link, there is a reason behind that they are doing it, and so on and so forth. So we are not going to dig deep into any of those, but the idea is, yes, it's very important to look into that one. Workforce planning, when you want to do that, meaning one way to look at it is time horizon, and I think it's very, very important. So it's not that when we finish this call, or in general as well, when you have an idea, that you always think only about the long term in nature. You need to keep in mind that you will always have some immediate needs. You will have some technical requirements in the organization that you need to do that. Let's say if you need somebody, I don't know, and in the payroll management, or any example, meaning just take on a day-to-day basis, you need to do that. Yes, that is gap plugging, and you need to do that, and you need to provide that one. So that's a immediate, let's say, requirement in terms of time horizon. But then there is sort of gap closure, which you can plan it ahead of time in terms of your annual business plan, or you can say it's an operational workforce planning, or it's manpower planning, that it's a 12-month projection, that okay, what we need over the next 12 months, or let's say in the next 12 to 18 months, meaning this is the projection that we do in the financials. So you are combining your financials as well as the gap closure strategy around the operational workforce planning for the next 12 months. That's an important horizon as well to look at it. But yes, it is not strategic workforce planning, because it is still internally focused. Why it is not strategic? Because it is internally focused. It is looking into your business plan. It is looking into what you see in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters, and you know that, and that's the reason, by the way, we have in the finance now also those monthly reviews, and instead of those earlier like quarterly or biannual reviews of the budgets, because things are changing fast. So again, this let's say operational workforce planning is roughly for the 12-month window. But strategic workforce planning is your long-term in nature. It's a gap prevention. You need to prevent the gaps before they happen. It's not the closure, it's a prevention of the gaps. Excuse me. And I think that's at least in terms of time horizon, 3 to 5 years window. And why it is important, I'll come to it in a minute as well. But this is, let's say, the gap prevention or strategic workforce planning. In terms of horizon, you need to keep in mind that it's a 3 to 5 year plan. It means you need to invest into that sort of a program with that sort of a timeline in mind. There will be actions happening every year, but then you would know that where you are ending in the next three years, and maybe you will then start again the process while you are still in this one. how to initiate the strategic workforce planning. I think the element that we wanted to a little bit dig deep into that one, and in that it's here I would just take the couple of examples from beyond. I think this was our starting point when I was speaking to Hamza Saban, and I said, okay, how we should take it forward. And his view was that, okay, if we can share some of the examples that what we are doing it here. By the way, this couple of slides that I share next, these were presented in the TM forum session in 2020, December 2020, a virtual session by our Vion chief people officer, group chief people officer of Vion group. So and this was a case study presented to the people there as well. So coming back, meaning how to do the overall strategic workforce planning. As I mentioned, you always need to look into the outside end view. So one is that manpower planning or operational workforce planning of 12 months, but now you want to plan something beyond that, and you want to see how things are moving. So your starting point is your corporate strategy and priorities. So you need to work with your strategy function, ask them, and not only get the slides or two, but really understand with them that, okay, what is our strategy, where we want to focus, and why, and so on and so forth. And I think if you do that, this will really help you then whatever you want to bring forward, let's say an initiative or a proposal to your management, and you say this will help you achieve this element of your strategy, then the CEO is listening, then the CFO and the rest of the organization is listening if you have the worth in that sort of discussion or in your plan. So I think starting point is your business strategy. And this key caveat that I mentioned it earlier as well, but I took it for the sake of slide preparation for granted, that yes, before getting into your business strategy, you will look into what is happening in the country, in the market, in the industry, and then you will come to the to help. Then you will realize better what is happening to your business, to your company strategy as well. So meaning there is a step before that, but I think this was the reason that for the last 20 minutes, what we were spending the time together on. So then is, okay, identifying the critical capabilities. And I think once you know that, now to deliver this strategy, you need certain set of capabilities in your organization. And for that, we partnered with TM Forum, because we are a technology and a telecom company, and TM Forum is an industry group which provide a well-renowned digital maturity assessment. And this is 5 dimensions, from customer to culture and strategy, technology and operations, and then roughly 24 sub-dimensions, 110 elements. So it's quite extensive. It helps you bring the outside in view, but then also get the internal feedback from the employees and the management around these 110 areas, or in our 5 dimensions. And with that sort of an assessment, then we go to the next step and say, okay, how we close these critical capability gaps, the gaps in the people side, and we are going to focus a little bit on the people side of the gaps today, and how to do that, and then the process side and the technology side. So I think that's that these are the key steps in the process, because some of you had that in mind, that okay, you need to align with the business strategy, identify the gaps, and there are a couple of ways of identifying gaps. I'm going to share with you another example as well that we have done, and then how to close the critical gaps. And by the way, this we have implemented this model or way of doing the strategic workforce planning in 2 of our operating companies in Ukraine and Kazakhstan, and it's progressing well, and it's a great way to look into the long-term planning. I think in view of time, maybe I'll leave this for now. It's the same message that I've delivered it, and you will have the slide in case you would have any further questions after that as well. Please feel free to let me know. Then how to close the gaps, and I think that's very important. Meaning we identified the gaps, and as I was mentioning, that we will be focusing on the people-related gaps, and that's why I mentioned the reskilling and upskilling part. Okay, mostly internally, I think the organizations, we are focused on upskilling, but yes, it's very important when you look into the 3 to 5 year horizon, reskilling will become important. And I think, I'm sure all of you know these definitions, but I'm just for setting the scenes. Reskilling is when you are looking for moving or preparing a person, or person is preparing themselves, is from one functional role to moving outside that function and going to another function. Let's say an HR person getting ready to be reskilled to move to a marketing function, or a marketing person getting ready to move to a finance. So meaning that they're moving out of their function It's long term in nature, slightly in that way, but it's reskilling. Upskilling is okay, you are upskilling yourself to do your current job or the movement in your job better. Somebody staying in HR trying to upskill themselves to do better job in the evolving HR domain. So I think just to keep in mind. And again, the McKinsey have recently published this study as well. You can access it. The link is given. That okay, yes, reskilling is very important, but then the focus areas are different. If you would see that, but their research, they have identified the IT, sales, supply chain, procurement. These are more important areas in terms of the reskilling focus at this stage. Let's say HR and legal and others, those are important in the current domain at this time of the research. They are less focused on in terms of reskilling. I think it's more in the upskilling happening, but reskilling wise, I think for now at least. Yeah. Okay. So then coming back to, let's say, how exactly we do that. And this is the another example that you can approach it. And we did this in our headquarter function as well here, that, okay, when we had, because we were going through a big, business or operating model change over the last 3 years. And then at the end of that one, we had to identify that, okay, how we can future proof the organization. Do we have the skills that we need for the future in the retained organization? So what we have done on the basis of that we started with a role inventory, and we said, okay, these are all the roles in the company. And we did not, because we were a relatively smaller organization, so it was easy to do that as well. But we took all the roles, and on the basis of that, we went to a partner, which is Draup, and I'll show you some of the examples that, okay, help us map the skills, the current and the future needs. So we said, please take this role, like take any example, HR role or treasury role, and help us understand that what is happening over the next 12 months in this role externally, and what will be the position of this role in view of the AI and the research that you can do over the next 3 to 5 years. And then give us that future demand, the future needs of these particular skills in these particular roles. And then they help us assess those, and I come to it in a minute. And then we took that research and brought it to our managers in a survey form, where we said, what do you think when you see this employee and this set of skills? Assess him or her on these skills, and give us that, okay, where you see them. And this is for the sake of upskilling, reskilling requirement, but mostly upskilling requirement. So what we could see that, because we're focusing only 99% on the staying in the job progression, meaning how the job is changing and then how those people need to change with that job. So we asked the managers to assess people, and on the basis of that feedback, then we went and then we analyzed that, okay, how we can fill these gaps. What are the gaps? Those are identified from the skills of the future versus the skills of today of the person, and then how to so what are those gaps. And the last step is then we put together let's say the plan and share with the managers to share with the employees the gap closure execution part. So okay, how they can work over the next 12, 18, 24 months to close these gaps. And yeah, coming back to that, so Drop, as I was mentioning, they are our partner in this one, and they are a great company in terms of AI, which they made it possible because they're using the technology to look into the data of thousands of companies. Let's say when we asked them, they looked into thousands of job descriptions published in on the different job sites in the company websites, meaning as well as then also another set of thousands of job descriptions data that they have internally. So these trends that they are helping us reach or identify with extensive research, meaning as a human we can do maybe 5, 10, 20 job descriptions, and even if you do that sort of a review, you will already start getting some good sense. But then you need technology for broader, and that's the reason that I was mentioning some of these technologies companies can help you really solve your problem. But first you need to know what exactly is your problem that you're trying to solve. So our problem was to identify how the roles will evolve over the next 3 to 5 years in our retained organization, so how we can future proof our organization, and this is what then we worked on it. So they helped us collect these all skills role wise. They given us what is the importance, which area is what level of importance for role. Again, this is an example of a function that we have. Then we took this example and we created this survey, as I was mentioning it to you, and then we gave it to manager to help us identify, again, in terms of 4 areas, in terms of a scale, that select an area where the employee needs to be upskilled. Select the out of these skill clusters or competencies and skills which matches the already the employee is at that level, and in areas where employee maybe is already exceeding the requirements. So this is what came back, and this is actually our basis now to do the it provided us the basis to do the analysis that, okay, where are the gaps? So wherever you see the reds, these are our gaps, and we said, okay, now we need to work it out, what is the solution to bridge or close these gaps. And then when for that, and meaning again, there's quite a lot of information, and I'm keeping it brief in that way. But as I said, your orange line is the target line in terms of the future needs, and then you see that, okay, where what is the score of each employee. So each employee was surveyed on all those, by the managers, assessed by the managers, and their C levels on that, and on the basis of that information, then we worked again with Drop as well as our partners in Coursera and LinkedIn Learning to identify that, okay, how they would work in the next, as I said, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on, meaning already, let's say, to be selected between in a discussion between the manager and the employee, that what will be their focus area. But we as HR were able to enable the managers to tell them that this role of treasury analyst, let's say, is evolving on these lines. These are the gaps for this employee. Now please choose with them what will be their focus area over the next 6 months, over the 12 months, 18 months, and so on and so forth. And then we have the resources available, that what exactly they need to do to upskill themselves. And I think, again, meaning this is a publicly available slide from Drop, and I think it's on their website as well, where they said that the reskilling is two ways: evolutionary and transformatory reskilling. In terms of evolutionary skilling, meaning one key thing that I want to highlight, and I'm not going to go into the content because the slides will be with you, but it takes 4 to 6 months. It's not going to take very, very long to reskill people. And I'm talking about in telecom companies, and people would know that, let's say nobody had the 5G skill set earlier. If you can take your packet core engineer to a 5G packet core engineer, it takes you only 4 to 6 months. Yes, meaning you can't find a 5G packet core engineer in 5 months if you just announce a job, because there were not many. And this is the way to do that. And you need to identify that what are the courses people need to attend, which is available internally, what is available externally, and what will be the path to do that. And this is evolutionary reskilling, and companies can do that. And there's quite a lot of research available, meaning in US, they say that, okay, roughly it takes around $25,000 to reskill somebody who is a professional skill set person over this time, or over the 12-month window in general. But let's say if you fire the person, let's say this packet core engineer, and hire a 5G packet core engineer from the market, what you will pay in terms of severance and then rehiring and everything else, it will be 6 times more than the cost that you would spend on a reskilling. So it is a business case. It is there. Yes, it varies, by the way. The cost varies, the time varies between roles, but I'm taking one of the complex roles here. And then another one is also that you have a transformatory reskilling approach, and in that you take steps. Let's say you take an IT system analyst person, you work with them over the next like 4 to 6 months window, and they become data analyst, and from there you become data scientist. And these are, let's say, the areas. As I said, it's a 9 to 12 months time, but it will it will help you reach there. And this is something I'm telling you as a HR person, that, okay, we were lacking as a HR profession. We couldn't grasp it, what is happening. But with the help of these AI companies, those can process data, tons of data, and then help you find it out what is happening. First of all, you need to find it out what will be data scientists, because I know that 2-3 years ago we were struggling in to even write a JD for a data scientist. So I think meaning this is an important element I just want to highlight and give you the confidence that yes, it is possible and you can achieve some of these things. By the way, I'm not going to go through these 21 HR jobs of the future, but it will be very good to know that, okay, how these jobs will be, in terms of either transformatory or evolutionary skills, a reskilling process, how these will evolve. And it will be very good for us as HR people to get ready for these jobs of the future. And I'm sure some of the companies will start working into these areas as well. But I just wanted to leave a food for thought here, and that's it. Another area, gap closure, talent acquisition element. And I think, as I mentioned, I'm not going to go into how to hire people. And all of us know that very well. But I just want to highlight, we know this 6Bs model from buy, build, borrow, boost, and bind and bounce. And I think some of the people were interested, okay, how to to bounce off the people, meaning the skills that you don't need, you do not need. I think it's an important area. But what we are going to focus for now is, okay, how this is linked with our strategic workforce planning process. So you have identified the gaps. You can reskill people as well. But yes, there will be at times need that you need that thing urgently, or you need to look into different ways of upskilling as well. So I'm going to share a couple of examples and then come to an end. What you have in place as or what is available to you as a HR person now, it's vast array of options in terms of talent platforms. Meaning, if you want to, let's say, go into and then check the marketplaces for premium talent, meaning if you need an interim CEO, if you need an interim CFO, at that level of people, you go and check, let's say, companies called Toptal and Catalant, and you will find it out that this level of competence is available. Meaning, it's not only the freelance, which we normally see, that those transactional jobs, which are also the marketplaces for these freelance workers in terms of Upwork and freelance, that's also available. And at times you need those people as well. And as I said, this becomes very important in mature markets, particularly now, and I'm sure over the years in other markets as well, that if you're 50% of the workforce is contingent worker, you need access to those people. And these are the platforms, those are helping you reach to the access. So if you want a premium type of talent, you need to leverage these platforms. Also, if you need general freelance workers. But at the same time, there are platforms available now, those help you innovate at a crowdsourced level. Meaning, if you go to the incentive, let's say, you can post a problem. And by the way, the pharma companies extensively use this. They all the time focus on these areas, and they extensively use these platforms to come up with the innovations. And I would highly recommend, if you have a business problem, go and post it, and then try to get the feedback from the experts in there in that domain. And I think it's and then the key thing that I want to highlight in the next couple of minutes is the internal talent marketplaces. That's becoming very, very important, because whenever there's an acquisition topic come into mind, talent acquisition, we always look outside and we say, we need to hire people from outside. And this is becoming a common trend, a common focus area, and it's heavy investment happening in this area. And I think if you have an interest in the topic, please read the report from the Josh Bersin. I think he has done extensive work on this area as well. Just a snapshot that the future of the talent management is in the talent marketplaces. And we had these technologies available earlier as well in terms of performance succession and workforce management. But now these companies like Gloat and others are really taking it to the next level. And I would highly recommend, if someone has generally an interest, just to see that, okay, how these companies are doing it. And I think, again, some of these internal marketplaces are good for a large company where you need to have, I think, a sizable organization. But the concept is very important. But I want to highlight, to use the in-house skills available. Sometimes you do not know. What we do, that we fire somebody, and that person goes and joins somewhere else and do something else. So why not to identify those in-house skills and upskill that person quickly and keep it in-house, and then you will have a higher, more engagement rates as well, which we always try to measure in HR. And also, you don't need to waste a lot of your time. So yeah, in terms of Gloat model, I really like this, that okay, they help you identify in-house skills, they will increase the visibility, and I think and then it connects with your rest of the systems to develop new skills and capabilities, because then the platform is connected with your learning management platform and others. And then the key important thing is, okay, quickly reallocate the talent. If you have jobs, gigs available, as I said, this is very important. But I'm sure, and less maybe visible at this stage in some of our markets, like in Pakistan, because we do not hire people for 2 days a week thing. But here in Europe, let's say in my team, over the last 24 months, I had people, some were working 3 days a week, some were working 4 days a week. And it's quite common, and you need different type of people, and they don't want to commit with you the 5 days a week full-time job, because they want to do something else. So that's the reason you always need to better understand what is available internally, who you can use it for that sort of and that sort of a work, and so on and so forth. So I think that this model of Gloat is another example that can be leveraged if you have a large-scale organization. And I think companies like Unilever and all of those big companies have really leveraged this in the middle of pandemic, because when they were not able to, before they went outside, they created these opportunities for internal people, which made it clear to them that, okay, what type of a talent is available, and how they can fill those roles, in terms of going only outside the talent acquisition, and how they can do it internally. So in terms of gap closures, as we were discussing about the upskilling, reskilling, we discussed examples, and then the more important area as well, whenever you need to go outside, before go outside, please check the skills of your internal people, and the platforms like Gloat and others can really help. So I think with this one, and by the way, if you want to read a little bit more about the Unilever example, how they have done it, the link is in it. It's a great podcast available with your own, and then I would recommend if you have an interest in the subject. I think I would stop, and I anyway reach at the end of the session at the timing, and we took slightly, I think, 5 minutes longer than the time. I'm just realizing the message from our team. I think, as I mentioned in the beginning as well, I have captured, or at least tried to answer, all the questions those were raised by the team, by the participants, and I think those are already addressed. But if there will be anything else, I'll work with the team and try to provide the details, at least from my side. If you need at the end of the session any other topics that come to your mind that you think, okay, you would need my help to just, let's say, to look into that one, please feel free to reach to Terrabiz team. I'll try my best to respond to that in my capacity. I hope it was helpful, and it had given you the idea that, okay, why it is important to start from outside in perspective, to start big and then strategize your workforce planning from there. And I hope I was able to share a few examples. But with this one, I think I would stop here.